Hello, everyone. X-Wall Kill Bethelite here. And we are just enjoying the fall of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Watchtower, from my understanding, this is from what I've heard, they're telling their members that they will be going back to the Kingdom Hall. Now, you can take that with a grain of salt as far as how reliable what Watchtower says has been. But they are definitely telling their membership, hey, we're going to go back to the halls. We're going to just have such joy when we see each other. So, from what Watchtower's telling its membership, they're not preparing to go online and become an online religion. However, this is the problem for Watchtower, is that they're going to have to rebrand their entire religion, because all religions, they all have a brand. They have something they are known for. Watchtower or Jehovah's Witnesses were always known for door to door, knocking on people's doors. No, they were not known for no writing no letter, right? They were not known for no getting on no Zoom. Their brand, what they are known for, is door to door, knocking on people's doors with Watchtower publications. Just like the Catholic Church. What are they known for? They're known for their large churches. They're known for the Pope, right? If something were to happen, the church doesn't really change very much, right? They still have the Pope. Baptist Church, known for their powerful preaching, known for their music, right? Mormons, known for the Book of Mormon. They've got an entirely different book separate from the Bible, right? All of these churches, they all have a brand. Jehovah's Witnesses are no different. The brand, what sets them apart as different, and what they've even used and said themselves set them apart as different is door knocking on people's doors, and that's what they call their preaching work. But unlike any other church, what Watchtower has to now deal with is that their brand, what they're known for, has stopped. No other church, I don't know a single other church that has ever had to completely rebrand what they were known for. Jehovah's Witnesses known for what? Preaching door to door knocking, right? And if something were to threaten door to door, what were Jehovah's Witnesses always taught? Where everyone was ready to die. Everyone was ready to be locked up in prison. Everyone was ready for come what may. We're not going to stop this activity, right? The only time that activity was going to be hindered was Great Tribulation, because right after that, according to their theology, Armageddon is coming. Matter of fact, they were supposed to be the only religion there anyway, left. And then once everyone tried to attack them, then Armageddon. Well, here's the problem. Their entire theology is now false because they stopped the preaching work because of a virus. Not because of the Great Tribulation. Not because the government's turned on religions and then here's Jehovah's Witnesses and they're the only ones left still active. So then they turn on them and then God has to stop them before they wipe everybody out. That's the Great Tribulation. That's not what happened. What happened is there was a Global pandemic, a virus. And because of this virus and not wanting to get sick, Jehovah's Witnesses stopped preaching. And you cannot debate with me and say writing letters and sending them to random people is called preaching. You cannot tell me that. I don't even think a half-intelligent Jehovah's Witness would think writing a letter and then sending it off to random people, not even knowing if they're even opening the stuff. They probably take a look at it. Yeah, I don't know who these people are, and toss it to the side. You don't call that preaching. No more than you call taking a Watchtower magazine that they like to pass around, sticking it on top of a washing machine at the laundromat is not preaching. Right? But that's what they start their time that they record and send to Watchtower. They use things like that, things that aren't even considered preaching, but then they call it a global preaching work. Nonetheless, what they're known for is knocking on doors, right? They've got to rebrand. Oh my goodness, Jehovah's Witnesses have got to rebrand. They can no longer go around and say, well, we are the one true religion because we go around preaching by knocking on doors. The door-to-door work, the primary thing that they were known for. And we've got people willing to die rather than stop. They all stopped when COVID came. They've got to rebrand this. Like, I've never seen a church rebrand. What I have seen, though, is a split. I've seen break off. Now, the problem for Jehovah's Witnesses is if they try to go this route, where, for example, the Mormon church, they've got a break off. They've got a split. They've got a different church. I believe they use the Book of Mormon and everything, but they're called the Community of Christ. The problem is that the numbers, they aren't even a fraction of what the LDS church is. If Jehovah's Witnesses try to do something similar where okay, our whole brand is tarnished now. If we keep bringing up, hey, we do door to door and we're the only ones doing door to door and we're never going to stop doing door to door, well, it just brings to the forefront that we stopped, and we stopped for a long time. In order for them to rebrand, they would almost have to completely branch off into something different, and this is typically not successful with churches. Typically when this happens, you don't even have half of what the more known religion has as far as membership. The more known religion is Mormons. What you might think of as a split is the Community of Christ, and they don't even have a fraction. So if Watchtower did something like that, where somebody's like, okay, we're going to split off, that's the problem. That's the problem. They're already small, and they're going to lose half of what they already have, if not more. They can't do that. They can't do that. So are Jehovah's Witnesses supposed to just start back up preaching once the government says it's okay to do it, or once the government says it's safe? Then they're going to go back out and start knocking on people's doors, and people are going to be looking at them like, okay, now y'all come out. There wasn't nothing divine in regards to your door-to-door magazine and publication passing out work. You stopped and shut down. Right? You completely shut down. That was their main calling card. right? That's their main calling card. Technically, other churches advertise also. They don't have to go knocking on doors because they're so well known. There is no Baptist church that needs to go knocking on anybody's door because everybody already knows about the Baptist church. What would they be knocking on the door for? To tell them what? To tell them something they already know? They already know that there's a Baptist church. They pretty much already know how to find it. You drive down the street and see a cross from miles away. They don't need to go knocking on doors. There's no real reason, but Jehovah's Witnesses Watchtower is such a small cult. Yeah, they've got to go knocking on doors in order to get membership, because otherwise people are naturally just going to go to a Baptist church, Pentecostal church, Catholic church, so on and so forth. A person is not just going to up and say, yeah, I'm going to go to church this Sunday. Let me go to a Kingdom Hall. They don't even gonna know what that is. So that's the reason why. They weren't doing it necessarily because Scripture says people have to go knocking on doors and telling people what they already know, and that is that there's a Bible, there's Jesus, and there's a church. People already know all that stuff. Watchtower was branding Watchtower by going door to door. They stopped the door to door though. So now you can no longer state that God issued you the command to go door to door because you then stopped going door to door, right? God didn't tell you to stop. So that causes a conundrum for Watchtower. You can't rebrand. You can't rebrand. There's no way a church that small can just turn around and rebrand. The FLDS, pretty much the only thing anybody knows about the FLDS is those are the people that were having grown men marry kids. Once you become known for something, it's hard to change it, right? So Jehovah's Witnesses are pretty much stuck, branded as those are the people that their whole purpose is stating God told them to go knocking on everybody's doors with magazines. Now that you stopped, you can't just start back up and make pretend that didn't just happen. You can't pretend we didn't just see you stop and hide in the house. See, for some reason, if the government in Korea or somewhere in Africa or somewhere else told Jehovah's Witnesses to stop preaching, Watchtower is going to tell them, hey, you guys continue. You guys put your lives on the line. You guys risk prison. And keep right on doing it. But COVID, a virus comes around, and Watchtower wants it stopped across the board. Right? So Watchtower really did not want, or Jehovah's Witnesses really did not want that type of persecution that could have been brought by Jehovah's Witnesses going against the governments and so on and so forth and preaching regardless of the virus. They could have wore masks and whatnot and went out with their magazines and what have you. But had they done that, yeah, then that would have brought persecution, right? Watchtower didn't want nothing to do with that. They stopped it all. Matter of fact, there are millions of people that have been vaccinated, gotten the vaccine, and they still aren't bringing them back to go preaching this quote-unquote urgent message that God is trying to tell everybody, hey, I'm speaking through this Watchtower Magazine here. You guys need to start subscribing to Watchtower Magazine and getting their books, because that's God's printing company now. Like that, they can't come back from that. Aside from door to door, the only thing Watchtower or Jehovah's Witnesses are known for is a bunch of false predictions. So now what Jehovah's Witnesses have is they're known for false predictions, predicting the end of the world in 1975, which never happened, predicting that the end of the world would happen before the generation of 1914 died off, which never happened. The whole Beth Serene thing, if you look that up, that was them saying that they're going to buy a mansion and use it for people who are famous in the Bible to get resurrected. That fell through. The only thing Watchtower's known for, other than the door knocking, is a whole bunch of false teachings. How do you survive as a religion if your calling card, your main bread and butter, you done stopped that even? So it was not a divine call for you to go door to door, unless you're wanting to say somebody at Watchtower is a prophet, spoke to God, and God said, stop preaching, COVID is here. Right? Nobody did that. Comment down below, let me know what you think, but we're just enjoying the end of Watchtower. There's nothing that they can do. Right? There's nothing that they can do. I mean, you got all these lawsuits, the child molestation, the two-witness rule that helped it, all these false teachings, which, again, other churches, they're not known for making a whole bunch of false predictions. Watchtower is. So that's something that they've got to deal with that other churches don't. It's hard enough to win a debate with a Baptist, Catholic, Pentecostal, anybody else who their church never said nothing about they're going to build a mansion for people and have them resurrected in their mansions and whatnot. The other churches have never said anything that ridiculous, right? So how can a Jehovah's Witness then win a debate? The only thing that they have is, well, we knock on the door. They stopped that. They stopped that, right? So you mean to tell me God told you to knock on the door and then you quit doing it because of COVID? COVID is more powerful than God now, right? Comment down below. There's no way out. There's no way out. Watchtower already lost a lot of their reputation and their power with all those false predictions. And you can't say nothing about no other church having no false teaching. You can't say nothing about the Trinity doctrine when you had the Beth Serene doctrine. You just can't say nothing about nobody else. And that's all that they were doing. The whole religion is going to have to change its roots, what it does. Talk about other churches and go door to door. They made such fools of themselves with the 1914 generation that'll never pass away. Whoops, we mean overlapping belly fat. No, not overlapping belly fat. We mean overlapping generations, right? We're not talking about Tony Moore's overlapping belly fat. We're talking about overlapping generations. They already done made a fool out of themselves. So now that they've lost a lot of the power that they had as far as a reputation, they're going to take another blow because they stopped the preaching work and hid. And this pandemic ended up being something that it looks like we're all going to pull through anyway. It wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't the start of the Great Tribulation. And they went in hiding anyway. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. But we're just enjoying the end of Watchtower. Like it's over. It's like two basketball teams playing. One team blows the other team out and starts heading for the locker room after the game. And the other team just sits out there and keeps shooting baskets, not realizing the game is over. They're shooting baskets, they're making their baskets, and the score ain't going up. They done turned the scoreboard off. The game's over. That's what it is for Watchtower. The game's over. People still gonna be wandering around talking about, oh, don't we got the truth? Just laugh at these idiots because there ain't half nothing that they've ever preached that was the truth. The only thing they had was door knocking, and they stopped that. Comment down below. X Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.